Okay, so look back and see. Does anybody have the definition that they want to help us out and put that in here for us? Sure. Who has the definition? Daquan? Go ahead.
Human qualities are not.
Okay, so giving human qualities to something non-human. Okay. Good. Does anyone have that a different way? Did you say that a different way, Chris? Okay, good. So underline that word person in personification. That's an easy way to remember what personification is, okay? And it's when an animal or a thing does something that only a person can do, okay? Laughing, dancing, okay? Trees don't dance. But when they're moving in the wind, it looks like they could be, it's a very balletic movement, ballet, right? They're moving very gracefully, okay? So we can put trees dancing in the wind. If you think about the cartoon video that I showed you yesterday, that was the example that was on there. If you have another example, I want you to slide it in there. You can put your own example, okay? Now let's take a look at literal versus figurative. Okay. Flip back to the text that we read yesterday. What page was that we talked about literal? I think it was Joey that read that section for us. Chris, where were we? What page was that? 86, Mara? Okay, good. Go back to 86. And if you don't have this filled in, I want you to take a minute to fill this in. Literal and figurative are synonyms or antonyms?
Synonym. Synonym.
Let's think about what we're saying. Literal and figurative are synonyms or antonyms? Are they the same or are they the opposite? They're antonyms, right? Okay, good. So literal means and figurative means. I want you to put a definition there. I'll give you a minute to do that. Look back at your notes from yesterday. I want to make sure that you guys got this. Just grab the pen off of my desk if the pencil's not sharpening well. Thank you. Okay, so Joey, what do you have as a definition for literal? Exact, say that. Have confidence. The exact meaning, right? If it says a phrase, the literal meaning means it means exactly just that. They're not meaning anything else when they say that, okay? So figurative then becomes the opposite. So take a look at what figurative means. Tell me what that means. Valerie? Sorry. You should be looking back here with us. I need you to stay with us. Jose, what does figurative mean? Good. So it's an idea beyond the exact meaning. It's something more. And it might mean something totally different. Okay? It's a way to compare ideas. Good. So do you remember in the cartoon when he said, oh, Miss Keene's test was a piece of cake? And the one little cartoon character said, oh, do you mean a double chocolate fudge chip layer or something like that? That character was taking it as the literal meaning. Oh, it must mean that it's something you eat that's chocolate and delicious. That's literal. He was taking it literally, like, oh, what he's saying is exactly what he means. When in reality, he was using figurative language, right, that meant something way beyond just the nice chocolate dessert, right? He was trying to say something else, okay? All right, the last two that we had on here that we missed yesterday, let's look at imagery. And we have an analogy here, right? Remember I told you guys that especially for high school, those analogies are going to be really important. So I want you to put a star next to those. Okay, so analogies there, right? Put a star next to it. And we're going to add imagery today, okay? Emily, can you read for us what imagery means?
Imagery is a description that strongly appeals to five senses.
Good, perfect. 5 senses. So let's put that here. Sometimes they use the word sensory detail. It still has the same root, but they'll ask you on the OAA for a sensory detail. Underline that word, that root sense and sense here, okay? So they're asking you, can you see it? Can you taste it? Can you touch it? Can you smell it? Can you hear it? Okay, that's what they're asking.
Is that an I next to the N?
Which one, Destiny?
An I next to the N.
I am image, yes. It's like painting a picture in your mind. Okay? Very descriptive.
I'm gonna eat mine too.
Okay. The last one here is analogy. It's a way of comparing. Okay. Another term for comparing. So we have simile, we have metaphor, and we also have analogy. All three of those are used for comparing. Okay? And we'll get into that a little bit more on Monday and Tuesday. Okay? What really happens on the OGT for you guys in the college entrance test, it will say something like toothbrush is to teeth as hairbrush is to blank. And they'll expect you to fill in that blank, find the connection, the comparison. The easiest way that I found to do it, to make a note to yourself, is to draw an arrow when you find the connection. So toothbrush is the actual tool that you use for your teeth, right? It's the tool. And a hairbrush is the actual tool that you use for your hair. So you'll see a lot of those. They actually do like a dot dot, blank is to blank as blank is to blank. They use dots instead of saying is to blank as blank is to blank, okay? But that'll be high school, that'll be college graduation tests. It's very heavy on the OGT, okay? So we'll do some practicing. I have some blended learning sites for Tuesday for you guys to get on and practice analogies, okay? Once you find the connection between one, it has to be the same connection for the other.
I'm still writing.
Okay, I'll give you a second, Destiny, no problem.
Oh, they do this in the small test.
They do it on the STAR test. They start introducing it to you guys, but they'll get much more complicated in high school. Okay? Ignarius, can you please stop talking?
They do it with any other stuff like that.
Right, they do it with all kinds, it'll be all different objects and things.
And
It
then
just,
I'll be getting confused.
yeah,
and
the best way,
figure it out.
Daquan, is to find that connection. And then once you figure out how to, if you're writing this note to yourself with the arrow, that's the best way to do it. They'll start clicking for you.
At first I didn't get it.
Okay, good. Chris,
I'm gonna learn some more of words that go in high school.
say that again.
I'm gonna learn some more words for high school.
You mean analogies?
Yeah.
We're gonna practice. Did you hear me say we'll be on It's Learning next week? Okay. So I have an analogy link that I'm gonna have you guys click on and do an analogy quiz. There's a few of them there to practice on. Okay? Yeah, it'll go in the grade book. Okay. All right, go ahead and turn the page for me to 87. Let's finish this up and bring it home. You guys read the poem yesterday. You should have given me one example of personification, and you should have told me what it means, okay? The last thing I have for you guys is I want you to skip one line in your notebook. I'm going to read a quick little story to you guys. And what I want you to do is you're going to be answering, let me switch to a new word here, document. You're going to be answering two questions. Just skip a line from where you were taking notes, that's fine, Destiny. Okay. And the question is going to be this. You're going to give me, you're going to cite one example of personification. And you're going to explain what the author says it means by that, what the author is saying.
Number 2.
You're going to kind of translate it. Remember I talked about the fact that sometimes figurative language doesn't sound like English, like you're almost translating it. That's what you're going to do today, okay? So just put your pencils down for me. I'm just going to read to you guys real quick. I'll just tell you that there are a bunch of figurative language examples, of personification examples in here. So there's not just going to be one correct answer, there could be multiple, okay? All right. Can you, if I stand here, can you guys see me? Can you guys all see me? Mara, you may want to slide around a little bit, okay? It's called Whisper from the Woods, okay? In the darkness of the forest, in a quiet, unlit corner, a seed fell from the branch of a very old tree. It landed on the green moss and rolled into a dip in the soft ground. There it began to grow. When the old tree looked down and saw the tiny seedling below, she moved her branches ever so slowly aside, and a tiny ray of light slipped to the bottom of the dim forest floor. The seedling reached up to touch the light with small, pale leaves. Then he grew and grew. As time went on, other seeds fell and began to grow. Each time the old tree moved her branches so that they too might grow up beside her. Year passed year, and they grew tall, straight, and strong. Alliteration, right? Straight and strong. All day long, in warm summer breezes, these trees, young and old, would lean together and whisper sharing thoughts and passing the wisdom of many years. Are you guys looking for your personification here? Okay, good. In winter, asleep, they'd stand, hand reached hand, roots gently touched underground. One day the old tree sighed, and that night in a terrible storm, she fell and leaned against the first seedling. And the branch that held her was steady and strong. When the rains came, the old tree slipped quietly to the ground at the feet of those young trees, her children. They covered her with their leaves and sheltered her from the storms. In the spring, the first seedling dropped a seed to the forest floor. It rolled up into a dip in the soft ground and there began to grow. Cycle of life, right? All right, so here's what I need you guys to do. Give me one example in your notebook of personification. Put today's date there at the top so I know that you're doing it today. Okay? And explain what the author really is trying to say. Okay? I need you to raise your hand as soon as you have an answer. I'm going to stamp you, and then you're going to stamp other people. Okay? So let me know when you have one. Cite one example of personification from that story, and then explain what the author is really trying to say. Okay? I'm going to read the story a second time as you guys are writing, so if you need to hear it again, you can listen, all right?
Bless you. Bless you.
In the darkness of the forest, in a quiet, unlit corner, a seed fell from the branch of a very old tree. It landed on the green moss and rolled into a dip in the soft ground. There it began to grow. When the old tree looked down and saw the tiny seedling below, she moved her branches ever so slowly aside, and a tiny ray of light slipped into the bottom of the dim forest. The seedling reached up to touch the light with small, pale leaves. And then he grew and grew. As time went on, other seeds fell and began to grow. Each time the old tree moved her branches so that they too might grow up beside her. Year passed year, and they grew tall, straight, and strong. All day long in warm summer breezes, these trees, young and old, would lean together and whisper, sharing thoughts of passing the wisdom of many years. In winter, asleep, they'd stand, hand reached hand, roots gently touched underground. One day the old tree sighed, and that night in a terrible storm, she fell and leaned against the first seedling. And the branch that held her was steady and strong. When the rains came, the old tree slipped quietly to the ground at the feet of those young trees, her children. They covered her with their leaves and sheltered her from the storms. In the spring, the first seedling dropped a seed to the forest floor. It rolled into a dip in the soft ground and there began to grow. So somebody give me, do you have one yet to share with me? Okay, good. Sabrina?
The personification is that the trees moved and whispered.
Okay, good.
And that the author is trying to talk about life cycle, like at the end how that all trees die and I follow.
So the whispering would be it getting older, is that what you're saying? It's kind of sighing, like tired. You know when people get older and they're getting ready to die, they're tired, right? A lot of times. Okay, good. I like that.
Oh, I thought it was the wind. Like,
Okay. Who else is ready for me? Sabrina, go to the next person with their hand up. Okay, Chris, go ahead, read, and she has to read it out loud, remember?
I said, one example is tree moved through branches.
Okay, what's personification about that?
Trees moving.
Okay, trees do move, right? The wind moves them. So that's not something that only a person does. So I need an example that only a person can really do, but they made it like the tree was doing it, like just like a person. Okay, I'll come back to you. Jordan.
Okay, the personification of the trees were whispering,
Yes.
and then the author is describing the lay of life.
Perfect. That works perfectly. Good. There you go. Go to somebody with their hand up. And they have to read it out loud too, remember?
and then, the author was
Okay,
trying to
Jose.
say the wind, but leaves.
Yes, looking is the key there. They don't have eyeballs, right? Okay, good. Good, excellent. You got it, you got it. Here you go. Go to somebody with their hand up. She gets a new stamp. Okay, good. So Narius, come get a stamp.
Personification was the wind was whispering. Arthur was trying to say.
Okay, go find somebody with their hand up. If you have a stamp, you should be next to somebody that has their hand up, checking them. Ask them to read it out loud
I
for
got a
you.
stamp.
Go get a stamp over here. Tyrese, you ready? Destiny has it if you want to go grab it from her. Tell me what's the personification in the story that I read. How is the tree acting just like a person, doing something that trees don't really do? It's something that only a person would do. Did you hear Sabrina talk about the tree? Tell me your thought. Valerie, let's go.
So it's like, the trees fall, and you get, the person goes and get back up.
Yes.
A tree don't.
Okay, what happened in the story?
They protected the trees.
So which page was that? Maybe you and Emily can look at this together till you come up with a page that works. Slide a little closer to her. Okay, good. Who does not have a stamp yet? Raise your hand if you do not have a stamp. I need somebody with a stamp to go sit here and sit here. Help them out. Okay?
Oh, I'm here.
Go ahead and have
I
a
am
seat,
here.
guys. We're not doing one of those jobs.
Look camouflage.
Joe, you got a stamp?
Why they?
Good. Okay, now have a seat, please. Good.
Okay, let's just get this one.
Okay, good.
I'm not
Have a
done
seat
yet.
then.
I believe the knife.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they all, some of them do, some of them don't. How's he doing? Okay, so talk to him. Talk him through it.
Oh, you need to help? Alright.
Yeah.
Personification. Personification tree.
Just kind of say it again in your own words, right? How would you describe it to them? I gave him my description, but now I want it to be your words. And you're teaching him or you're teaching her. Okay, go ahead. What would you say is personification?
The trees, the whispering trees.
Okay, so find that. Let's find that page so they can see what that is. Okay, you guys need to be working if you're in here. Okay. Okay. Now here's what we're doing. I want you to take a look at number 2 on page 87. and you're working to see, do you have a 2 out of 2 there? Now that I've shown you what it should look like, this question mimics the one that's on page 87. So take a look at what you wrote. If you didn't write something, I want you to fix it, do it.
The life cycle.
Whispering, what kind of blowing? I mean, the wind can blow very strongly, or the wind can blow softly, right? So if they're saying that it's whispering, there you go, add that in. Good. Mara, are you done? Okay, good. Go ahead and turn the page for me then. 88, we're gonna start there on that poem. Good, good, good.
So, Miss Kim, I write down a personification and
You give the example, what is being personified. You give the actual words, like wind whispering in the night. That would be the actual quote. And then you say, what is the author really trying to say? He's not saying that the wind is going pss, 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 right? What's he really saying when he says that?
like the wind is windy.
It's windy, but how? Is it a soft wind or a strong wind? When you whisper, it's a soft, right? So that's what you're saying. Okay, Chris.
At the, one of the other was whispered, we can say that every tree has a circle of
Hold on. I don't really like what you're doing right now. I've given you a task of what you should be doing, and that's what you should do. Then you should be on 88. Okay? I'll come back to you. Chris, say that again. Sorry.
the tree will whisper. Others come to say that every tree has a circle of light.
Let me see what you have. Are you still putting what it means?
He already,
Oh, the cycle of life. Okay, good.